how you built the house and
Yes,
it's
Renee
really,
wanted to experiment with solar
yeah,
because, goodness, it's free. If you can get energy off of it, get it.
yeah,
And so Arizona didn't even know it had sun. But New Mexico knew.
huh,
And New Mexico had an organization. And so we used to go to their organization that had to do with solar. And they were interested in the things that would help the Indians to have heat. And so they were experimenting with all kinds of fun stuff. And we went and we listened, and there wasn't, mostly they wanted to store in things like barrels with water in them, and then you let the sun shine on them, and they heat up the water, and that would be your night storage. For day, passive was the thing. You put your windows facing south, and you make tile floors, and you let the
Right.
sun shine in on that tile,
right,
which is probably sitting on cement,
right,
and you've got a heat sink there.
yep,
And then in the nighttime, you have a little heat left. Well, we couldn't find anybody who knew how to build a solar house.
Isn't that funny? Here in Arizona again, yeah, with,
And so there was a fellow named Jeff Cook, who was an architect, a professor of architecture at Tempe. What's the name of that one? Arizona State.
okay,
And so we had made contact with him, and he had come out for some kind of a conference to San Francisco. And we went up and we met him. And we talked about would he be our consultant for this solar house. And he was happy to do that, although it really turned out he didn't know that much. He was just learning. But he learned on us. And he went on to be an expert in it internationally. And so we heard that a couple up in Santa Fe had rock storage for their heat. We didn't want water. Water is going to always leak.
right, right.
Rocks will not
Yeah,
leak.
yeah, once you got them, they're not gonna go too far, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we called this family, and they were teachers. And they said, oh, yes, come, and we'll show you our system, which was a rock storage system with collectors of some sort. I don't remember what, because
Yeah,
it was under the porch. It was a two-story house, and they had this porch that extended in the front, and their rocks were under there. And how their rocks got heat, I don't know.
yeah,
I've forgotten that
yeah.
part. But
doesn't matter.
anyhow,
Yeah,
we went, and it was a rainy day, cloudy. So we went in. We came, and they'd forgotten about it, and they were grocery shopping, but the kids were there. And the kids let us in, 3 kids, I recall, each one wrapped in a quilt.
huh,
And I thought, I don't know if that's such a good idea or not. I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
have an idea we'd be living in quilts if we had that
That's what I
system.
thought when you said it, I go, that's not a good introduction to solar heating.
No. And there was a little fireplace, but the kids were not allowed to light it. So we waited until the parents came home, and then they showed us the system, although it was not warm that day. But we liked the thought. So then we came home and built our house for that. But we asked Jeff Cook when we were in California if you were going to build a solar house, what would you do? He said, I'd put it on a mountainside and I'd put the solar collectors underneath.
Hmm.
Well, we weren't on a mountainside, we were on a flat place.
Right.
But it came to us, if you cut a slanted ditch,
Oh, which we're
So
I can look out the window. Well, you can't see it on the camera, and you can see the ditch
Yes,
here. Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
so the sun, if you cut it at an angle, the sun can come in on the collectors as if you were on the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
So,
you had to come in. Did you hand dig it or have a machine?
no,
or-
a machine.
Yeah,
God
yeah.
came and dug it.
Yeah, yeah.
Dug it, I think when you build the house, you have to build for the solar to start with.
Yeah.
So we just looked at everything
Yeah.
before we started building.
You know, it's funny. That's what I was just going to ask Delane and say, did you draw up a design for the whole house? But
Yes.
you did, but you sort of started with the solar, and here's what we got to do.
Yeah, you have to be prepared for that before you build the house.
Right, right.
Because you're going to have the collectors underneath, you're going to have the rock underneath.
Yeah.
Renee took pictures and kept a log. I'll show it to you later of how we built it.
Uh-huh.
And
And did you just collect the rocks from here around
Well,
because there's
that's
rocks everywhere?
what we thought we would do, yes.
Uh-huh. But
Wrong
then,
kind of rocks.
oh,
You need hard rocks that are as round as you can get them, about 4 inches in diameter.
why the round? So they fit together
And
better?
yeah, so there's a lot of room between them for the air to go.
Right, right. Huh.
Well, these are soft and they're flat,
Yeah.
regardless of what they look like out the
Yeah,
window.
Yeah, yeah.
So you need river washed rocks. So we went over to Safford on the Gila,
Yeah.
and there was a company there, and Renee explained what he wanted to do, and he wanted the rocks of about 4 inches and round. Can you do that? Well, they have a thing called a grizzly, and it has these like sieves, wire with big holes, little holes, and so forth. And you get the rocks, and there are rocks all over the place there outside the river that used to be in the river.
Right. So it's like a grader. It
Yes.
sorts them by the
Yes.
size. Yeah, yeah.
So they would do that, and then they would give us the ones that were kind of 4 inches.
So Safford's an hour and a half, 2 hours away. How'd you get
Oh,
them?
yes. But anyhow, the guy said, I will do it. And okay, we order a dump truck load. This is once we get everything ready. We have the bed
Yeah.
where the rocks are going to go. We have the air intakes and outtakes.
Yeah.
We have a plenum beneath where the rocks are going to go, because you have to have airflow.
So that's a place for the air to circulate.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And step back a little bit, how we built that.
Mm-hmm.
There weren't even passive solars
Right.
in those days.
That's what I was trying. So it's interesting. Yours is the first home.
Yes.
And I think keep going.
And it
It's a
was
good story.
avant-garde.
Yes, that's what.
We
So it's
were
interesting.
way out on the edge.
Yeah, yeah. So you started.
And there were not photovoltaic cells yet.
Yeah, yeah.
Otherwise, we would grab those, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
But
So
anyway,
keep going, Renee.
you had to have this plenum underneath where the rocks were, so you have this airflow,
Yeah.
which I will show you later. And so we thought, well, how do you do that? You need some little stools, little
Huh.
supports,
Okay.
and then you put something on it, and then you put the rocks on it. So where do you get all of that?
Right. What materials? do
So
you use?
then we came up with the supports would be little cement pillars.
Yeah.
And so we put a note down at the post office, please save us your half-gallon milk cartons. And a half-gallon milk carton has
Right.
4 sides.
Right.
So you bend it so it has 8 sides. You have an octagon. and then you pour cement in there,
Oh my.
and there you are with your
Oh, my.
little
If
pennant.
you, I don't know if you know, but how many of those supports are down there? You just,
Oh,
I mean, are we talking
goodness.
20, 50, 100?
All right, this thing is 60 feet long,
Yeah,
and you have maybe 4, and they're maybe 2 feet apart.
yeah.
I don't
Well,
know,
Yeah, I
a
don't-
jillion.
a lot of them.
So people saved them, and we made those little things, and then we said, what'll we put on it? And we went and looked at junkyards in Tucson, and you know what catwalk is
Yes.
made of,
Yeah,
and
yeah. Iron or steel or
Yeah.
something, yeah, yeah.
and we found some old catwalk, and it was just ideal. So we bought that, and we put that on top of those little supports.
Yeah.
And
that's
they're quite strong because a column, and once you put the cement in there,
Sure.
it kind of
yeah.
bulged out a little, so you had a round column,
Yeah.
more or less.
And the rocks are gonna go on the so catwalks on
Yes.
cement.
Yes, yes,
And then the rocks are on that.
are on the
And that
catwalk.
gave you your circulation.
Yes.
Yeah, I can picture that.
But there's more.
Okay.
All right, on this side, do you see those vents?
Yeah.
Underneath that is a pipe.
Yeah.
What did we use? Culvert.
Yeah.
Underneath that, we had made a box out of metal,
Yeah.
which is what you would see if you look down.
Yeah.
And connected to that is this pipe that goes underneath and comes out at underneath the catwalk
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. I can. Yeah.
So the air
So-
can go here.
yeah.
And then we had to build the collectors. So we said to Jeff, how do you make a collector? He said, I don't know.
The expert told you that.
Go to the literature. There wasn't any literature. But helping with this thing was a kid named Scott. And his girlfriend was doing experiments with collectors at Los Alamos.
Mm-hmm.
And so she had come up with the one she thought worked the best. And she had a drawing of it. And he got the drawing from her, and we looked at it and said, yeah, we can do this.
Mm-hmm.
So for Jeff and a friend of his, who was an engineer, they computed things like, how should the house be angled to get the
Right.
best sun?
Sun. Yeah.
Well, south is here. And we wanted the
The
view.
view.
So we angled west,
Right.
southwest, which turned out to be the best because the afternoon sun is the hottest.
Right. Oh, sure.
So that was the best
Yeah.
angle
Oh,
after all.
And you got to keep your view, or
Yes.
Yeah. Oh. Huh.
And then they put sensors on 3 different levels in 3 different places in the rock bed. And so they could read those with some instruments they had and see how hot did the rocks get
Mm-hmm.
in the morning, at night, in the midday.
Mm-hmm.
And also, what I loved is they had these sophisticated instruments, but in this collector that Renee made, you had expanded metal lath coming in at an angle in what's virtually a box,
Mm-hmm.
kind of a thinnish box. And it came in at an angle and it was painted black. And they wanted to know, does it go through there as it goes up to come into the top of where the rocks are?
Yeah.
Well, I loved their instrument for measuring that. Somebody took a cigarette,
Oh.
got a mouthful of smoke,
And blew into it.
Built- bent down and blew it into the collector
Where
and
does the
watched the smoke go. And yes, it went through. I loved that.
So they were trying to see what the airflow was, or
Yes.
for the heat. Yeah, yeah.
And it was doing it. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
doing what it should do. And we got a real high rating on the heat in the rocks. It was, I think, 43 or 5% of the sunlight was being utilized.
Oh wow.
And so I said to Renee, oh, let's go up to 50. Thank goodness we didn't go up to 50. What we've got is plenty. And the rocks, back to the rocks. So they brought out a dump truck, and we sit out here and we take each rock. I kid you not. Each rock, is it round enough? If it is, put it in the wheelbarrow so Renee can put it in where the rocks go, the rock bin. If it isn't, put it beside you.
Oh, so you were that particular.
We were that particular. And so we had another idea before I finished that story.
Yeah.
We knew they used round metal balls in the down at Douglas in their, what was that? It helped refine the ore.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
bringing out.
Bisbee in the mining operation, they use it as a crusher. They use big metal balls.
Yes,
Is that-
at 4 inches.
Yeah. Oh, perfect size.
So we went to them and said, what happens to your balls whenever they've been working a while?
Yeah. And
They said nothing. We just leave them in there until they're gone.
wow.
So there went that idea.
Oh, I see. So that didn't work out. That didn't.
So back to the rocks.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that was a pitiful amount of rocks, that one dump truck.
Uh-oh.
10 dump trucks later, we have the rocks for the rock
And
bin.
so, how long a time did that take? Do you remember?
Oh goodness, it took us 4 years to build the house.
But just to do the solar and the
to
rocks.
do this probably took 3/4 of a year just to get all this stuff
Yeah.
before you even put the house up.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because- yeah. So,
Yeah.
you know, the other thing, I'm going to go back a little bit in what you were talking about. When you put up the sign in the post office
Yes.
and you said we need milk curtains, I'm trying to think about if I was somebody that lived out here, and here come these people that I don't know, and they want milk cartons, and I know they're doing something at their property. I mean, did anybody come over and visit, or did people ask you questions,
You
or
know,
think
not-
you were crazy, or I don't know what? Or,
Not
no, not
much.
really. Okay.
People really weren't interested.
Huh.
And still, when people come and you say this is a solar house and so forth, I'll show you. They don't care.
Oh, that's interesting. Because to me, part of it is the
Novelty of
the
it.
novelty of it, but also the history of it. That you and Renee did it so early on.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
And so that's interesting. So
No.
the people, the local folks were, well,
They weren't interested.
they weren't interested.
No.
Yeah. So
But we put out a box, and they were very good about giving us their milk
yeah,
cartons.
yeah. So they were willing to help. but
Yes.
Nobody inquired like, well, what are
Nobody-
you going to do with all these
Oh,
things?
maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But I don't recall anybody coming out to look.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
interests me. I think if I would, anyway, it doesn't matter. I would have gone, well,
Well,
what are you doing with these? And
I would have too.
Yeah.
Because when anybody builds anything around here, I'm over there looking at it.
Yeah.
But we're that kind of people, Bob.
I guess, yeah, because I wouldn't be able to stand not figuring out what they're doing with it. So, okay, so you guys, let's go back. You got the solar part done,
Yes,
and then you start building the house.
yes.
And it took you about 3 years?
4 years by the time it was finished.
Did you?
And a contractor was working over at Animus on a house, and we found out about him, and so we got him to come and be our contractor. And Renee wanted, we both wanted burnt adobe, because that's what people around here had. And we used Finn as our fella to tell us what to do. And Renee wanted double walls, because we didn't have the insulation you have now.
So the walls are double walls of brick, adobe brick, right?
And there's a space between them, and we had a fella come out from Tucson and spray a foam in place insulation between the walls.
So tell me again, your walls are how thick? They're,
Let's see.
2 feet?
Look at the window over there, and that tells you how thick they are.
Yeah, they're 18
one,
inches
I
or
think,
so.
is a 4-inch brick.
Yeah.
And the other one is narrower.
Okay. So it's at least a foot, if not more.
So they're pretty thick.
Yeah, yeah. So you had those, so you had local people make it, and Finn helped. It took...
No, these people who laid the brick, it was a man and his 5 sons, and they came out of Benson. And they brought a little trailer and put it out here, and we didn't live here. We lived over there near Jeff G. A house that belonged to Addie. I don't think you knew Addie.
No, I never heard the name. Yeah.
Anyhow, it's a house a little closer to the Cienega there.
Yeah. So you guys were out here full time then once you started the house? You were living here full time? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
we did.
Yeah.
And we rented that house from Audrey Miller. And that house had been built by Sally Richards' aunt and uncle, who owned the 3 Triangle at that time, which is now Bill, 4-something or
4 bar, Bill's,
Yes, that Bill Cavalier owns.
Yeah.
And so then we built the house, and there was a fellow who professed to be a carpenter, and Renee got him to come and help him, and I did, what is his name, Crutcher. And Mr. Crutcher would work with Renee, and after Mr. Crutcher went home at the end of the day, Renee'd go measure the boards and cut the angles right. I don't know how much help Mr. Crutcher was. But anyhow, he did help. And then later, Finn had a wetback who was working for him, Armando, and they were paid $5 a day in those days. But Finn said, Armando is very good. I'd pay him $15, and I think you should pay him $15 a day.
But the average was 5.
Yes.
So you were going to pay him 3 times that.
But he was good. Armando was very good, and he worked Renee to a frazzle. So then he helped Renee later. Renee and the contractor had a falling out, and so we were left on our own contractor then after that. But part of the foundation and so forth had been dug, and the cement run and the cement for this had been run.
So you just went ahead then? Renee went ahead and you went ahead and did it yourself from then on? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
With these helpers, Mr. Crutcher for a while, and then Armando after that. And Armando did well. You know, he went to work for somebody, for the Taups at the ranch, Cay Creek Ranch, and they wanted him to do rock work. Well, he'd never done rock work, but he thought, what the heck?
He can do it. Yeah.
So then he began to do it, and he learned how to do rock work while he was here. Then
Was he living in the area?
Then the Karens,
Uh-huh.
who owned the ranch where Sky Village is, young Karen, Robert, knew how to weld. And our mother went and worked for him and learned how to weld.
Oh, neat.
And our mother had a goal here. He wanted to make $1,800, I think, because he wanted to go home and build. He had, I think, 2 girls and a boy, and he wanted to build an extra bedroom for the boy, bedroom and bath, and then another room to rent out. So he had his goal and what he wanted to do. And by Christmas, he had his money, and we told him it was time to go home. And he wanted Renee to buy him some tools. So he had a verbal list. I think he could write, but I don't remember his writing. Of the tools he wanted to take back. So Renee went down to Douglas and bought him the tools and a backpack to take him in and sent him back home.
Now, were you guys done at that point, or no?
Yes.
Yeah, you had finished. So
Yes.
he met his goal, and you had your house. Oh,
Yes.
that's a great.
Except inside things hadn't been done, like all
Right.
the sheetrock wasn't in or up and
Yeah,
things like that.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
what a great story, huh? Did you ever hear from him again, or no?
No.
Never heard.
Never
from him?
heard
Yeah.
what happened to him.
Huh.
If he built it,
Yeah.
he was of Indian descent. And he had married a lady who was a school teacher. And he had taught himself to read and write. And I don't know how well he read or how well he
Right.
wrote. I got stationery envelopes and stamps and wanted him to write his wife every week.
Right.
He wouldn't do it.
Oh, maybe he couldn't write.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyhow, he wouldn't write her, but I took his money down to the bank and sent it to her
Yeah.
each week.
Yeah. So he was living around here, or was he living?
He lived in the garage.
Yeah.
We had
He was
the
living right
garage
here.
up by then,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he lived in the garage.
Oh,
Or
right.
maybe he helped build the garage, I don't know, but the garage was there because
Yeah.
that's where he lived.
So did you guys? So you finished the house. He's gone back to Mexico. Did you have an open house or a celebration or?
Yeah, the neighbors kind of had it for us.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they brought food and stuff, and we had the open house.
Yeah. You remember who some of those neighbors were back then?
The Taps, who had the Cave Creek Ranch,
Okay.
and the Richards, and Audrey and Guy Miller,
Yeah.
and some people who were in Portal then. I don't remember who.
Yeah. And other-
No, it was kind of a blur.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
But you're fine.
And I said, I'm not moving in until everything is finished in that house, the closets and
Oh.
everything. Well, the closets weren't finished, but anyhow, Renee and I we designed the cabinetry we wanted and had it made in Tucson. And I remember the cabinet people, one old guy who worked there was really irked with their cabinetry. He didn't think it was as good as they used to do because they were going 24 hours a day.
Oh, I see.
Because building was really going on by then.
Yeah.
This
yeah.
was about 80,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
were picking
Yeah.
up.
People.
And so he was very disgusted with all of the new workers. He didn't think they were working up to standard. But Renee had, back in the old days, you learned a lot in high school.
Right.
And Renee had done, what kind of drawing is it?
Oh, mechanical drawing.
Anyhow,
maybe.
he had taken that in
Drafting.
drafting.
Yeah.
He'd taken that in high school, so he knew how to draw up what we wanted. So he and I discussed it, and we drew up the kind of cabinetry we wanted, and then we took our plans over there, and then they made it. And then we brought it out, and we put it up ourselves. And we also put the windows in. Boy, that was hard.
Oh, because these are good-sized windows.
We really did a lot of work.
And then did you guys do the finish work, the sheetrock, and
Yes.
everything?
Yes. we
So
did
I got the feeling that maybe you moved in before the closets were done.
Well, it was Christmas time, and the girls, Vicki and Annie, had come out. Susan was married and didn't come out then. Anyhow, they helped with the house when they were here. And I remember they were helping put up sheetrock in the bathroom. And they wrote little messages on the back of the sheetrock for anybody who ever tore the house up. And so they helped put up sheetrock and back in that part. And then when we went to put the beams up, Finn came to help Renee. And